Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only gaming news show brave enough to report another story about Xbox layoffs.
Yeah, this is the last thing that I want practice in or to get good at, but here we are doing the dance all over again. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier led the journalistic charge this morning, reporting that Microsoft's Xbox division will soon experience, quote, major layoffs.
Man, oh man, this always sucks to hear when you're working at the company and you see these reports. This is a very, very scary thing for a lot of people. The report doesn't contain much more info from that, aside from reiterating that Xbox managers are expecting substantial cuts.
This follows a similar report from Bloomberg last week, revealing planned layoffs at the Microsoft level, largely targeting salespeople.
Writing for The Verge, Tom Warren first reminds folks that he actually reported this a few weeks ago in a subscription-locked article before offering a few more details.
Yeah, and that one was about a book, so I don't know, it's a bit of a misdirect, but Warren relates in the report that these cuts are part of a restructuring intended to align the organization for the next generation of consoles.
Sure, okay. He cites a single anonymous source in claiming that this restructuring will change Xbox's distribution in Central Europe, with Xbox ceasing operations entirely in some regions.
Yeah, so maybe they just have a fully different business model, business plan, markets that they intend to appeal to for the next generation. And well, there's a simpler reason that's not nearly so complicated, but you know, it's fun to speculate about the larger strategy behind it. Regardless, if all this sounds awfully familiar, that's because it is.
Yeah, both Microsoft as a whole and its Xbox division have undergone multiple rounds of layoffs in the last few years, as I'm sure you probably know.
And unfortunately, in the lead up to a giant acquisition, this is something we saw in the future and are very disappointed to be correct. It kicked in nearly immediately after the acquisition went through. The Xbox division celebrated their $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard by laying off nearly 2,000 people in January 2024.
Yeah, that was followed by another 650 jobs cut in September of 2024.
Yeah, then in January 2025, that brought another round of layoffs affecting the gaming division, though this was also very widespread at Microsoft in general, and the severity, especially in regards to Xbox, wasn't really known.
Interesting. Then in May 2025, Microsoft laid off 3% of its total staff, though again, the direct effect on the Xbox division was unknown.
And that's on top of Xbox, or rather Bethesda specifically, shutting down multiple studios in May 2024. That includes Arcane Austin, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog Games, and Roundhouse Studios.
PUBG publisher Krafton acquired Tango Gameworks in August 2024. So thankfully, they didn't completely shut down, right? That was the studio that made Hi-Fi Rush, so at least people were excited about the fact that they got reacquired.
Yeah, someone got to survive. And Roundhouse Studios didn't get fully kicked to the curb either. They merged with ZeniMax Online Studios, who makes Elder Scrolls Online. So there was some salvaging going on there.
And now for the fun part, the part that we hate to report, but you must know the context of. Microsoft's gaming segment reported a 5% increase in revenue year on year for Q3 2025, with Xbox content and services increasing 8%. Lawrence, well, wait a minute. The revenue went up, but they laid people off. I don't understand.
Oh, it's not that complicated, as we alluded. The weird thing is, so you do not, under any circumstances, got to give Microsoft the benefit of the doubt. My brain just automatically tries to think about the things we don't know about. One is that we don't know what rate they're hiring. EA was an interesting case a while ago. You know, they had multiple rounds of layoffs, but then Stephen Totillo in GameFile reported that their headcount was actually going up despite these public layoffs. So we don't know how many people they're bringing in. They might just be churning a lot of employees and deciding who they want to keep. Apart from that, the only other context I can think of is that if your revenue goes up 5%, but inflation is at like higher than, like, inflation bites away some of that profit too. So if you're under the gun to drive up your margin, which seems to be the trend in gaming now, is finding the widest margin in a game, not necessarily trying to make the biggest and best game anymore, then I could see why you'd be hawkish on everything, and that includes trimming payroll.
Yeah, that margin is very important, Lawrence, what you're talking about there, because a 5% increase in revenue year on year for the gaming segment, I'm betting that no one is celebrating that. I'm betting that they're like, basically that's a break even because of inflation and things like that. And businesses like this do not operate on a break even margin. They usually try to operate on a 20 to 30% margin. Even larger companies like this, more like 10%. But when you're looking at that, then if they overhired during COVID, just like everybody else did, then that's the reason they're laying people off, and they're like sort of spreading it out because I don't know why. You know what? I don't know why they spread it out. I'll be honest. I feel like they think that it's easier for people to digest when they're working at the company, when they like sort of sprinkle these layoffs throughout. But it looks really bad from a news point of view. From our point of view, we just keep reporting it over and over and over that the revenue's going up and they're laying more people off. So it's just, I don't know. I want to say that this is still the shockwaves from overhiring during the pandemic and also that $69 billion acquisition. I just don't think that this makes anybody look good. I think that this is just all the way around bad. And, you know, of course, that there are always people at a company that maybe aren't pulling their weight or whatever. I don't know that this is the right way to do this, is to get rid of those people like this in a round of a layoff that, you know, takes another 1,000 people.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I did see this was at the Microsoft level. I think it was in January 24 or maybe 25. There was a round of layoffs at Microsoft that we didn't even really talk about in context of this. But that was specifically performance-based. They went out of their way to say, yeah, we're cutting some underperforming employees. So that doesn't feel good. But yeah, they didn't say that, they didn't say anything about this. Microsoft declined to comment. I don't know. All of this is just kind of like, it's just, I don't want to sound too detached. It's just my airy speculation trying to figure out why things like this happen. Because it's frustrating and I don't even work there. What's extra frustrating too is that I feel like Xbox is on a run of some pretty good games. I think their Game Pass service has really flourished lately. So you'd like to think there's room for everybody on that raft. So yeah, again, my brain just scrambles for meaning and fails to find any other than it's just, hey, that's Megacorps.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right to do that because that's, you know, we try to do that on the show. I mean, the only other way I can think about this is Microsoft is one of the largest companies in the world, $1 trillion company. So when they lay off 1,000 people, to them, that is basically nothing. And that's sad. It's just really sad to say. So they get rid of 2% of their workforce or whatever it is, and then they're probably going to rehire half of those people as contractors, right? And then eventually full-time them maybe later or who knows what. So it's just that's what happens when you work for a megacorp. Because I did work for a megacorp, and you're seen as a number. You really are. It's super scary, and I learned very early on when working for the megacorp Comcast that I was just a number, and that they did not give a shit about me. And so that is something that I've always carried forward in my career, because it's true. They only care about money.
I guess what's even more galling now, thinking back, and I shouldn't be doing this, but nearly all the layoffs included some mention of how this is a difficult but necessary step to properly prepare Xbox for the future or whatever. But then they go on to lay off more people, so it's BS every time. It's I don't know how many times you can reuse that phrase. They're not using it now because they're not saying anything at all again, but I swear to God, if they put out another statement. The only other thing that's slightly interesting is the bit from The Verge about them reorganizing their operations in Europe. Because if they have multiple divisions set up for specific regions and there's just no traction there at all, I can see why they would want to just fold shop and like stop investing in the regions that have pretty much declared that they're not interested in Xbox console hardware. I think that they're probably shifting to a PC strategy, and that I think they think that a PC is more of a global platform. Like as long as you have, your games there and your subscriptions there and the gadgetry there, you may not need a localized regional office for every region in Europe. That may bite them in the ass. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're dancing around the fact that they're not selling consoles. So
yeah, that's the big thing. Yeah, they've never really gotten a hook in Europe for sure.
Yeah, they are not selling consoles anywhere at this point. So while the revenue did go up, likely because of Game Pass, those console sales they needed those, and they're not going to get them. I don't think they're ever going to get them for the foreseeable future. So their strategy, I guess, is working. The revenue is going up, but barely. So I don't know that they can't rely on those sales at all in the future for console.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up because it's Game Pass that they mentioned. It's publishing on PlayStation, which has done pretty well for them. And then also the Minecraft movie, which it's not specifically, I don't know if they qualify all that under games and content or where they put that, but yeah. My eyebrows went up when I read that because I forgot Minecraft's under the Microsoft family. So that's been doing pretty well for them. But yeah, it's another one of those make it make sense moments, and we just can't, aside from, line go up, same as it always is.
That's right. Lawrence, can we talk about something cool, like a video game?
Let's do it. Yes, let's visit a happier place on the internet, Law Dog's Preview Corner. Today we got Thicst Thieves. This is from Other Side Entertainment, which is a group it's a group formed in Texas from some pretty legendary devs. Warren Spector is kind of the banner name on this. Accordingly, it's a sort of genre that Warren Spector is associated with, which is the multiplayer immersive sim, or the immersive sim in general. So this is a PvPvE stealth game. I guess it's kind of like, it's like a multiplayer Dishonored extraction game. So you basically have multiple thieves in an immersive sim level. And inside that level, you have civilians, you have guards walking around, etc. And it's kind of by the rules of a typical immersive sim, where if you're just chilling out, guards won't hassle you. But if you're in a restricted space or you're seen doing something you're not supposed to be doing, like picking a lock or stealing some shit, then they're going to come after you. The twist, of course, is that it's multiplayer. So every night, the Thieves Guild requests a different special treasure, and that's basically like the objective of any given round, is every thief is trying to find and steal this treasure before anyone else can. So there's kind of multiple phases to it. In the beginning of the round, you basically have to find clues. You have to find codes for safes. You have to read letters about where people hid things and crawl around in the rafters and misdirect guards so that you can loot stuff. Eventually, the idea is that the levels will basically load in a sort of randomized configuration with different clues in different places, different safes with different codes. So every time you kind of have to figure it out as you go. Maybe certain passageways will be blocked off, other ones will be opened up. So you have to kind of improvise on the fly, in addition to other players all trying to do the same thing. But then, of course, there's a level of subterfuge there. Some of the classes can disguise themselves as NPCs. That's a pretty common thing that can happen in multiplayer deception games these days, but kind of the idea is you can fool other players or maybe trail another thief that's ahead of you and closer to getting the objective, or you lay a trap for them at the exit, or you can even like attach noisemakers to other players to attract guards to them, and then other players become a decoy while you go and steal the thing. So it's kind of neat. I like the idea behind it. I especially like that even though there is one main treasure to steal, you can still just fill your pockets with other stuff and escape. And then you bring all that with you, and then you can use, I think it's like reputation. You basically get some kind of currency that you can spend on upgrades. So even if you don't make off with the giant gold bar or the crown jewels or whatever, you can still make out of a given round with some advancement that you can use to kind of customize your character and upgrade as you go. So it's a really neat idea. And some of the play scenarios they showed kind of showed all these ideas executing well. They don't really have a release date yet, though. Right now, I think they're looking for playtesters because they just want to hammer this thing with loads and loads of players to make sure that you can't reduce the mechanics to something very rote. I feel like that's what happens in online games a lot, is people just learn the patterns, learn the systems, and then they're just, okay, if the treasure's not there, then it's there, and if the switch isn't here, then it's here, and then they just like hit all the things and they're gone before you can even have a chance to play. So if they can keep that intellectual cat and mouse game going on, where it's always kind of a heisty game and a battle of wits and cat and mouse between a bunch of players, in addition to a bunch of dopey guards and panicky civilians, that could be a lot of fun and lead to a lot of spontaneous scenarios.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. It's like first-person Monaco. I don't know if you ever played Monaco and Monaco 2.
Yeah,
But that's what this feels like, but also PvP. So that's really neat. I like this game. I was looking at the release dates. I couldn't find one, obviously, like you said. But this sounds really neat.
Yeah, I don't think they're quite ready for a release date yet. But yeah, take a look at it. Market it. They mentioned a couple times in the preview that as developers at Other Side, they're not really looking to make like a, flavor of the week million seller. They want to advance the form of immersive sim games. So some deeply artistic motivations behind this game for what it's worth. But I think they're onto something, and I think that could be a lot of fun.
Cool. We'd like to shout out a few patrons that support our Inside Games Patreon every single month. That just got laid off from Xbox despite not even working there. I don't even know how that's possible, but they're laying people off that don't work at Microsoft. Red N003 and DJ Kento. Hopefully you got a lifetime subscription to Game Pass in your severance, but they probably didn't because they never worked there in the first place.
I had a dark thought that one of them might actually work for Xbox and might actually have been laid off, and I was like, oh god.
I hope not, man.